go ahead, sworn, please.
Do you solemnly swear affirm that the testimony you shall give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
This way. Two steps. Good? Thank you. Make sure you speak loud and clear into the microphone so the viewers can hear what you have to say.
Yes.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury, spell your last name?
Yes, my name is Kathleen. My last name is Mazik. It's spelled M-A-Z as in zebra, E-K.
Where do you work, ma'am?
I work for the Florida Department of Law Enforcement in the toxicology section at the Orlando Regional Laboratory, which is located in Orlando.
Let's back up to 2005, 2006. Where were you working back then, in what department?
So I did work for the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, which is typically referred to as FDLE. But at the time, I was working not in the toxicology section, but in the trace evidence section.
What is trace evidence? What does that mean?
So trace evidence is typically evidence that is microscopic, meaning that you can't see it with the human eye. Specifically, the types of analysis that are done at the Florida Department of Law Enforcement include paint analysis, glass analysis, as well as fiber analysis.
Back in 2006, were you in a role where you would oftentimes prepare evidence to be sent to an analyst for the trace evidence?
Yes, I was a forensic technologist, so my job duties were to process evidence, to look for any trace material that might be on them, and then preserve them for analysts to do their analysis.
If I could bring your attention now to early 2006 in March, were you asked to look at evidence in FDLE case number 2005-05-17042?
Yes, I was.
And that corresponded with Daytona Beach, case number 05-12-02-152?
That is correct.
What were you asked to look at, ma'am?
I was provided with several different pieces of evidence, including a shirt, a pair of pants, socks, shoes, a jacket, and one bed sheet.
Let's talk specifically about a shirt. Do you remember the kind of shirt you looked at?
The piece of evidence that I received was identified as Q8. It was a long sleeve shirt that was olive, red, white, and tan striped.
Can I approach the witness, Judge?
You may.
I'm going to show you what's in evidence as states 9. Is this the shirt you looked at, if you can? And then how do you recognize it, ma'am?
It was the shirt. I can recognize it by the FDLE label as well as my handwritten initials on it.
When you received the shirt, I assume it was not on a nice board in plastic.
The shirt came to me in a brown paper bag that was labeled with the information from the agency, which was the Daytona Beach Police Department.
And you see this bag attached in the back, ma'am? Is
Yes,
this the bag that it was?
it is.
When it came in a bag, was it like rolled up in a ball or kind of crumbled up together at that time?
It was crumbled up together. It wasn't laid flat as it appears right now.
As you started to open up the shirt, did you notice any item as you were combing through it for trace evidence?
So the first thing that I do when I open up a piece to look for any trace evidence is to lay it out, take notes of it, as well as photograph it for my case file. And when I evaluated this piece of evidence, Q8, I located what appeared to be an apparent projectile that was embedded into the fibers of the shirt.
Just may I approach the witness?
You may.
Ma'am, I'm going to show you what's marked as states, I think J, for identification. Let me just look, make sure I got the letter right.
That is the letter J.
Perfect. Can you take a look at all 4 of those? See if you recognize those, and then I'll ask you some questions.
While I was doing my examination, because I noticed the apparent projectile, I did take photographs. So these represent the photographs that I took of the shirt with the projectile embedded. And then once the projectile or the apparent projectile was removed, I took separate pictures of just that. So that is what these 4 pictures in J represent.
And do these seem to be a fair and accurate depiction of what you observed that day?
Yes.
Anything changed or altered about these photographs?
No.
Okay. Judge, at this time, the state would move in stage J.
Any objection? No objection, Your Honor. Without objection, will be admitted as evidence.
Judge, may I publish to the jury?
You may do so.
Thank you, sir.
States number 10.
I'm gonna, ma'am, if you can look, can you see that? Where you're at?
Yes.
I have this little pointer, so if you need that, or if you need to step down, whatever you hear. Can you tell us where, in that photograph, is this 10, ma'am?
This is
10. So 10A, if you could tell us where that is, the projectile was located?
This is where the projectile was located.
Okay. And right here in 10B, is that a better, I guess, where you opened it up a little bit or you can see it better?
This picture was, I turned the shirt inside out. So we're looking from the inside of the shirt. And then the apparent projectile appears in this direction.
And now 10C, is this a photograph of the apparent projectile that you removed from the shirt?
Yes, it is.
Okay. This is another view of that?
Yes, it is just simply the reverse side. I flipped it over to take an additional picture.
May I approach the witness, Judge?
You may.
Ma'am, I'm going to show you what's marked as states. O for identification. Can you take a moment and look at that just to yourself? See if you want to take it, see if you can recognize it.
I do recognize it.
And how do you recognize it?
I recognize it by the unique FDLE case number. This is actually written in my handwriting. There is a label that I attached. My initials are on the sealed manila envelope as well as on the label. So I can recognize the case number as well as my initials in both sections.
Now, your initials, I guess they were different back then. Is that correct?
Yes, my initials were KR for Kathleen Repholz, and I have since married since then, which is my last name now, Mazik.
And this is the projectile or alleged projectile that you had taken and placed into the envelope?
That is correct.
Outside of any other additional evidence, tape opening it or looking at it, anything seemed to be changed or altered?
The piece of evidence on the bottom has been opened when it was last in my custody. It was not opened at the bottom. It simply had the piece of evidence tape that I placed over it with my initials, and now there's an additional seal on it.
Is it common at FDLE for you to send it to another analyst in the maybe firearms section who would then open this up and take the item out to analyze it?
Yes, typically, but not always. But in most situations, you would want to transfer evidence in a sealed condition. So I sealed it and then transferred it to that individual, and then they opened it.
Judge, at this time, the state would move in states.
Objection? Any objection? No objection? No objection. The item will be admitted as evidence.
And public session to the jury, Judge?
Yes, sir.
States
And to
11.
the bailiff. The prosecution wants you to look at it. At this time, the bailiff will hand it to the top juror, pass it down back and forth until every juror's had the opportunity to take a look at it. Like I said, when you retire to deliberate, you will have this exhibit with you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. I don't have any other questions.
Any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Can you tell us from your record approximately what date you would have received this to review?
The evidence came into my custody March 10th of 2006. However, I did not open up the shirt in this case, Q8, until the 16th of March.
And what did you do with the projectile that was found in the shirt?
The apparent projectile I did put into a manila envelope, which I sealed, and then that was transferred into the custody of a crime laboratory analyst in our firearms section. His name was Omar Felix.
Did you get any response from him, or were you entitled to get any response as far as his examination of the spent projectile?
No, however, prior to placing it into that sealed manila envelope, I did have him come over to view the evidence to ask him how best to package it. And he was the individual who told me to just put it in a sealed manila envelope. And that's when I did that and then transferred it into his custody the following day. So I transferred it into his custody March 17th, even though I did my analysis I did my processing on the 16th.
And so your testimony today is that you discovered this when it was provided to you for examination of the shirt, among other personal belongings?
That's correct.
But you don't come to court today with any evidence of how it got there, is that correct?
The evidence, I do know how it was received to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, but I am not privy to any knowledge before it came into my possession.
Thank you very much.
All right, any redirect?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. May the witness be excused.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Here you go. Release from the subpoena. State, call your next witness.
Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you, ma'am.
For the next witness, Judge, the parties did stipulate prior to trial to the identification of the first victim. As Quetta Gunther, we have a living photo of Quetta Gunther we moved into evidence. And also have a certified judgment of sentence or conviction record from the Quetta Gunther for prostitution.
All right, and this is all stipulated, so?
It is, Your Honor. We
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, when the parties agree to certain facts as being true, that is called a stipulation of fact. You must accept stipulated facts as having been proven. However, the significance of these facts, as with all facts, is up to you to decide. In this case, the parties have stipulated to the following, and they are, I think, the identity of Ms. Gunther,
Yes, Your Honor.
as well as a judgment and sentence reflecting a conviction for prostitution.
Yes, Your Honor.
And what else?
That's all for now, Your Honor. States K and L.
All right, thank you very much. They will be admitted into evidence as stipulated.
And we'd request to publish what's now in evidence as States 13 photograph.
Please hand it to the bailiff and he'll pass it down. Same thing, just look at it and pass it down.
We've got it on the
Oh, okay, go ahead.
state would call Richard Marcotte.
You just stand right here, raise your right hand, and be sworn in, please.
You solemnly swear affirm that the testimony you shall give in this trial will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes. Yes, sir. Walk his 2 steps. Good. Have a seat and try to talk to the microphone. Bless you. Thank you.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, sir.
How you doing?
Can you please state your entire name and spell your last name for the court reporter?
Richard Marcotte, Marcott.
Can I get you to get closer to the microphone so they can hear what you have to say?
Richard Marcotte, Marcott.
Thank you.
How old are you, Mr. Marcotte?
58,
And in what city and county do you live in?
Daytona Beach, Florida, Volusia County.
And were you living in Daytona Beach, Volusia County, Florida, back in January of 2006?
Yes, I was.
And at that time, would you occasionally stay with a friend that lived on Tomoka Avenue in Daytona Beach?
I was staying at a friend's house.
So kind of a place you're putting your head down from time to time?
Where I slept. It's where I slept.
Was the house near the intersection of Tomoka and Madison?
Yes.
Now, going back to 05, 06, were you using narcotics back then?
Yes.
And back at that time, were you spending time with a woman you knew by the name, the nickname of Sissy?
Sissy, yes.
And was her real name Julie Green?
I believe it to be.
And first, witness, Your Honor.
You may.
Showing you, sir, what's been marked for identification, it states S.
That's Sissy.
That's Sissy, person you know as Sissy.
Good.
All right, move this item into evidence as the next number states exhibit.
Any questions? No objection. Objection. Without objection will be admitted as evidence.
States 14.
And would it be better, do you want me to refer to her as Sissy? Is that easier for me asking questions of you?
I remember her as Sissy. I didn't really know her as Julie.
Would you use narcotics with her?
Yes.
And would she sometimes put her head down at the address, the house on Tomoka as well?
Yeah, about once a week she'd pop in. We'd spend a couple days together. We partied and have fun.
And did you know her to be kind of a hustler?
That's all I know is being a hustler. She always seemed to have some money from somewhere.
You said she always seemed to have some money from
She
somewhere.
always seemed to have money from somewhere.
Now, back on January 13th of 2006, do you recall Miss Green leaving that evening, going to call her father?
The last time I seen her, I remember saying she was going to spend the weekend with her dad. That's the last time I've ever seen her.
Okay, back around January 13th of 2006.
I believe that. I got notified by the police a few days after she left that she was dead. So I'm sure of the exact timeline. I'm not sure of that.
Okay, but the last time you saw her was leaving the house.
Yeah.
Have one moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Marcotte. The defense may have a couple questions for you. I'll tend to the witness.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for appearing today. How long had you dated or stayed with her at her apartment?
We didn't have an apartment. Well, we hung out together for about a year or so. I knew her about at least a year anyways. I know her about a year.
And during that entire period, did you know her to be involved in prostitution?
I never seen her get no date or get paid or anything, have sex with anybody like that. But I've heard that after she died that she was a prostitute. So
You didn't find that out until after?
I didn't know that before that. No, sir.
And would you categorize her as a heavy drug user, light or medium?
It really ain't my place to. I don't know what's heavy or what's light. I mean, what do you consider what?
What
I mean,
type,
before I answer the question, I want to know what I'm answering.
yes, sir. What type of drugs would she normally use?
Cocaine.
Any other as well? Hydrocodone, anything like that?
Cocaine was basically about it. I know of anyway, as far as I know.
Did she have a source where she would buy that, or did people give it to her? How did she get it?
I have no idea.
Do you know if she ever owed anyone any money?
Pardon me?
Do you know if she ever owed drug dealers money?
I'm not sure on that. I never hung around with her at the drug dealer's house or nothing like that, so I'm not sure on that, sir. I'm not going to answer a question I'm not sure on.
No, that's fine.
I'm just trying to be honest.
So whatever you know. You indicated that you knew her as a hustler. Did I?
But she always had money. She always talked to people and she'd go talk to people here and there. And she always come back with money and stuff, but I never seen her have no sex with anybody or nothing like that. So I was, that's a hustler in my mind, not a prostitute, but I could be wrong. I'm not sure.
Do you know if she ever hustled anyone and owed them money? She ever have a conversation with you about that?
Not that I know of. Not the best of my recollection, no.
Okay. And in her practice, do you ever know if she was, just using this term, a sole practitioner, or did she have a pimp?
I knew her. Nobody ever come up to me and said anything to me. I just knew her. She was my friend. I never knew her as no kind of
Yes, sir.
being pimped out or not like that. I don't know. I ain't sure what you're asking there, sir. I'm not real sure on that, what your question really
Well,
is.
well, yeah, as far as her being a prostitute, my question to you, was she just kind of on her own out on the street, or did she have somebody that was actually soliciting for her?
I don't know. When she wasn't around me, I ain't sure what she was doing, sir. I don't have a clue what she was doing when she wasn't around me. I didn't pay attention. I done my thing. She done her thing. That's how it went. I don't know.
Okay. Thank you, sir, for your candor.
You're welcome, sir.
All right, thank you. Anything else?
Yes, real quick, Judge. I forgot to ask you, Mr. Marcotte. When the police came and talked to you and told you about Julie, did they take a DNA sample from you
Yes, sir, I did.
and you willingly gave them a DNA?
Yes, sir, I did.
Thank you, sir. I have no further.
Oh, yes, sir, I did.
Anything else, Mr. Shea? All right, may the witness be excused.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. You're released from the subpoena. You're free.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you.
They call you next witness.
Our next witness is going to be on Zoom, Your Honor.
There are two.
It's gonna be-
Charles Oates and Robert somebody.
It's gonna be Hardman.
Hey, is this the guy?
Huh?
Is this the guy?
Yeah, I guess, yeah. Sir, Robert, can you speak? Robert, can you hear me? Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Very well. You'll raise your right hand and be sworn, please.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Before you proceed any further, just for purposes of the record, the camera that's pointed at Mr. Bannock right now captures all the way to the defendant. Will the defendant please rise for a moment? Robert, can you see the defendant?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Proceed.
Mr. Hardman, I'm kind of going to be off camera while I ask you questions, just so you know. Let me know if you cannot hear me.
Okay, I will. I hear you fine right now.
Perfect. Can you please state and spell your last name, sir?
Sure. It is Hardman, Hardman.
And sir, in what city or county do you live in?
Currently, I live in Elderton, Pennsylvania. That is Armstrong County.
And what do you do for work, sir?
I work in the oil field for a fracking company.
I want to bring your attention back to 2006. Did you work in the Daytona Beach area in early 2006?
Yes, I did.
And what were you doing for work then, sir?
I was a superintendent for a home builder in the LPGA and Bayberry development.
And back in January of 2006, was the area under active construction and active development, multiple lots?
Yes, that is correct.
And did you all have kind of a staging point or a location where you had a lot of your documents, things of that nature, an office?
Yeah, yes, we used a model home in the LPGA development at the time.
So that would have been across the road from the Bayberry Lakes development, right?
That is correct.
Was there an access road that you would sometimes use and other members of your work crew would use to come into the back of the development?
Yes, it was across the road on the north end of the Bayberry development, west of LPGA.
And now, sir, I want to bring your attention directly to January 14th of 2006, around 9 in the morning. Did you go down that access road that morning?
Yes, I did.
And did you notice something when you came out of the access road into the development?
Yes, sir.
What did you notice? What did you observe, sir?
So as I was going down the access road, I noticed a body, a female body, lying on would have been my left-hand side or driver's side of the vehicle as I was going in.
And what did you do when you saw her?
So she wasn't moving, rolled my window down, yelled, tried to see if I could get a response. I got no response. So then I exited my vehicle, got a little closer to her. At that point in time, I could see that there was a large pool of blood around her head. And at that point, and she did not appear to be breathing. So at that point, I called 911.
And did you wait for police to arrive out there?
Yes, I was instructed by the 911 folks to go back to the pavement and gave them a description of my vehicle, and I waited there for law enforcement and paramedics to arrive.
And did you touch her body at all when you went up to her?
No, sir, I did not.
And just going back to this access road, was that a pretty heavily used road or access way into the neighborhood?
No, it was just like a one-lane dirt road. There was probably only a handful of us that actually went in and out that way.
But it was frequented by construction vehicles?
Yes, sir.
Things of that nature?
Yes, sir.
I have one more, John. Mr. Hartman, I have no further questions, but the defense might have a few for you. Please stand by.
I have no questions, Your Honor.
No questions?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. Will that satisfy the witness's testimony and could you be released?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Hardman, you are released from the subpoena. Thank you very much for appearing today.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Today. All right, next witness, please.
Judge, I believe it would be, Fields, I think is the next one.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Fields, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right, Mr. Fields, will you raise your hand and be sworn, please?
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, Mr. Fields. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good, thank you. Could you please introduce yourself to the jury? Spell us your last name.
Yes, my name is Charles Fields, Fields,
What state are you living in now, sir?
Washington State.
If I could take you back to 2006, were you living down here in Daytona Beach?
In the area, yes.
What were you doing for work back then?
I was a police officer.
Did you work for the Daytona Beach Police Department?
I did.
How long did you work for Daytona Beach Police Department?
Approximately 5 years.
Let me bring your attention to Saturday, January 14th, 2006, around 9:15, 9:12 a.m. Were you working on road patrol that day?
Yes, I was.
Did you receive a dispatch to go anywhere, sir?
Yes, I did.
Where were you dispatched to?
To Thornberry Branch Lane, Bayberry Village.
I'm gonna show you what's marked as states M. There's a 1 and a 2 and a 3. Just let me know if you recognize this. I think we've looked at it before, but I just want to make sure. Can you see that okay, sir?
Somewhat, yeah.
Bring it closer, is that better?
Yes.
Okay.
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 Okay, just paved roads and looks like cleared land.
Okay.
And looks like roundabout, cleared land. And it looks like paved roads.
Okay, and let's go back to, we'll go back to M1. Is that an aerial of basically a little bit of the Daytona Beach area showing I-95 and also LPGA leading out to the Bayberry Lakes area?
I'm not really sure if that's recent pictures or not, so I'm not 100% sure. It's been a while since I've been in that area.
Okay, we'll just talk, we'll keep going. Where were you at when you received the dispatch about? Were you close to Bayberry Lakes?
I'm not 100% sure on that. I don't recall.
Did you respond out to the Bayberry Lakes subdivision?
After being dispatched, yes.
When you arrived there, where did you park and then what did you do when you arrived there, sir?
I don't recall exactly where I parked. I'm not sure.
I don't mean exactly, but did you park in close proximity to where the victim was located, like maybe on the pavement, and then try and walk back there, or what did you do? You parked and then what did you do?
We parked in the general area. I'm not 100% sure on the exact location.
Gotcha. And when you parked, what did you do? You get out of your car. What did you do when you got out of your car?
Walked down a dirt road.
What did you observe when you walked down the dirt road?
There was, I'm sorry, I'm just referencing my report and see what I wrote.
Will that refresh your memory, sir?
It would, yes. Yeah,
Take a moment, and if you just read that, and when you're done, just look up.
sure. So I ended up making contact with Robert Hardman, who was a superintendent with the KB Homes in that Bayberry Village area.
And then after you made contact, I assume you talked to him, he gave you some information, not what he said, but after receiving that information, did you continue to walk down the path and were you able to see the victim lying there?
Yes.
Did you remember what you observed or what you saw?
Referencing my notes. So I observed that the victim was unclothed and that the clothing was observed laying on the ground next to her.
Was she naked, lying face down?
Yes.
Did you notice if it looked like she had any injuries to her head?
I noticed that she had head trauma.
Once you noticed that, did you back out of the location and secure the scene?
We did secure the scene, yes.
What were the next steps? You secured the scene. Did you contact anybody, or what did you do?
After that, we did had an investigator come out, Detective Youngman.
Just give me one moment, sir. Mr. Fields, the location you responded out to in Bayberry Lakes, Was that located here in Volusia County where the body was?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. I don't have any other questions.
All right, thank you. Any cross-examination?
No cross here.
Okay. You want to confirm?
Yes, I have one. One or two questions.
Go ahead. No, you need to come up here,
Oh, I'm sorry.
because that's the microphone for that machine. Okay?
You wrote a report on 11306, is that correct? Is that the report you're looking at?
Let's see the notes here. Hold on a second. I have it reported on 114 on the top of my incident report, 114/2006.
I'm looking at a report on 11306 and reporting officers O.C. Fields. Would that be an additional report that you may have written earlier
In regards to what?
to this investigation on January 14th?
Just may I approach and see what report he's looking at?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is not his actual report. This is really actually from her, so he's not gonna know anything that you're telling him. You can try, but he's not
Oh,
gonna.
no, it's here.
Yeah.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have no other questions.
All right, thank you very much. Any redirect?
No, sir.
All right, may the witness be excused?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. You are released from the subpoena.
Thank you.
Let me call your next witness.
Thank you, Judge. State calls, Detective Grant.
Say your name, raise your right hand, sworn in, please.
You solemnly swear affirm that the testimony you shall give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Swear, sir. Thank you.
Make sure you speak loud and clear so they can hear you, okay?
Okay, will do.
Good afternoon, sir. How you doing?
Good, and yourself?
Great, thank you. Could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
My name is Stephen Grant. I'm a retired homicide detective from Daytona Beach Police Department.
How long were you with the Daytona Beach Police Department?
23 years.
When did you retire, sir?
In 2017,
Back in 2006, in January, were you working in the homicide division at that time?
I was.
Did there come a time on January 14th, 2006, sometime around 9:30, 10 a.m. in the morning, where you received a call to respond out to a location near Bayberry Lakes?
That is correct, yes.
What were you asked to respond out there for?
To help in the collection of evidence.
May I approach the witness, Judge?
You may.
Sir, I'm going to approach and show you an aerial map and some other little aerials. Can you take a look at that and see if you can recognize it, the area? I know you worked here for a while.
Yes, that's the pre-construction of the Bayberry Lakes subdivisions off of LPGA.
Okay. And this overall aerial, is this an overall aerial showing the location in comparison to where I-95 is in LPGA?
That is correct.
Anything changed or altered about, obviously now there's houses, but is this a fair depiction of what it looked at the time?
That's a fair picture, yes.
Judge, at this time, the state would move into the now, which is a composite.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Without objection, will be admitted as evidence.
State's 15, Your Honor.
15.
May I publish to the jury good?
How?
Through the screen over here.
Go ahead.
Sir, if I can show you what is marked as 15A, and there's a little pointer if you need it here.
Okay.
Or if you don't, that's fine. Just remember to talk loud since you're turned away from the
All
mic.
right, will do.
Can you describe to the jury what we're looking at here, and then illustrate where the screen was found at? If you can explain just the area.
Okay, we're looking at the overall area of LPGA, which is part of the LPGA subdivision area. And we're looking at this road right here, which is part of the subdivision leading into, which is now Bayberry. At the time, it was a little bit more brush there, but right around this area is probably around the site where the victim screen was found.
And just to orient everyone, this is LPGA right here, intersection with 95. Is this where all the, like now or like right over here, they have the new like outlets and all this stuff over here?
Yes, that's where
Okay.
Tanger is at right now.
Okay. And I'm showing you what is 15B. Is this an actual aerial of the location where she was located right here where that truck is?
That is correct, yes.
And it's just another view of that different direction?
Yes.
Okay. When you arrived out there, sir, you were just asked, you weren't like the lead homicide detective?
I was not.
What were you asked to help locate, or were you just there to like help just general look?
I was asked to help in the collection of evidence and look, and with the other detectives and anybody who was there, just to help them out.
Yes, sir. And when you arrived at the location here in I guess 15B, when you walked out there, was Tom Youngman already working out there?
Yes, Tom Youngman was there.
When you got out there, you started looking around. Did you come across any sort of object that you thought was relevant to the case and pointed out to Tom Youngman?
Yes, I noticed a projectile or a casing next to the victim's body, about 4 feet away from it. It was kind of shining in the grass. I bent down, looked at it a little bit closer, called Mr. Youngman over, and he did the tagging at that particular point of the item.
So just so I know the jury's heard a lot about projectiles and casings. You're talking about not the actual bullet that comes out of the gun.
It is the shell
The
casing.
shell casing. Okay.
Yes,
And you pointed that out to Tom Youngman?
that is correct.
It was only about 4 feet or so.
Yeah, approximately 4 foot.
So for the record, I'm standing about, is this about, you would say about 4 feet from location? of the
Yes.
victim's body?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. You have just a moment, Judge?
Yes, sir.
No further questions, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any cross-examination?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. May the witness be excused, state?
Yes, sir.
Defense?
Yes, sir.
All right, you're excused from the subpoena.
Okay, thank you.
so much. Steve, call one more witness.
State would recall Tom Youngman.
Appreciate you coming there.
The witness has been previously sworn.
Okay, you're still under oath.
Thank you, sir.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. I already said good morning, so good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
I want to jump right into drawing your attention to January 14th of 2006. Were you still employed in the same capacity with the police department as a crime scene investigator?
Yes.
And did you respond on January 14th to a crime scene, another murder crime scene in the Bayberry Lakes area?
I did.
Can you describe for the jury generally that area out there in Bayberry Lakes back then in 05, 06?
Back then, it was off of Leggy's Pro Golf LPGA in the northwest section of town, out where Margaritaville is now. It's Bayberry Village. There's a couple of streets under construction in there. Houses were being built. This particular area was kind of vacant. There was no houses being built. It was at the end of a Thornberry Road, and it intersects with Mulberry. It was a little bit further down on Thornberry to the end of the road that was under construction, and she was off to the right of that road.
And this was kind of like an access road, like a dirt road?
Yes, there's a tram, they call it a tram road, and back for the construction to go out to LPJ Boulevard from that Thornberry Road.
Okay, so the tram road would go all the way back out to LPGA.
Yes,
When you got to the crime scene, were other officers already on the scene?
yes,
And did you observe the victim on scene?
yes, it did.
Can you describe how she appeared to you when you arrived?
She was laying face down, her head to the east. She was naked, totally. There was some blood about her head. Clothing was strewn about.
Kind of jumping ahead, but when you processed all of her clothing and things of that nature, was there any type of identification, credit cards, anything with her name on it?
No,
Did you go through the same crime scene processing that you previously described to the jury earlier today with this crime scene?
yes, I did.
So did you take photographs?
Yes,
Did you mark pieces of evidence?
yes,
And did you collect evidence?
yes.
Was one of the items of evidence you collected pointed out to you by Detective Grant?
Yes,
And what item was that?
shell casing.
Did you collect and package that evidence?
Yes, I did.
Showing you what's marked for identification as states P. Do you recognize this item?
Yes,
What is this item?
shell casing, a federal S&W 40 caliber,
What do you mean by S&W?
Smith & Wesson.
Smith & Wesson. And is this the packaging on this board that you packaged it in?
Yes,
Does the casing and the packaging, other than the markings from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, does it appear to be in the same or substantially similar condition?
yes,
Your Honor, I move this item into evidence as the next numbered exhibit.
Any objection? No objection. Without objection, will be admitted as evidence.
Page 16.
Did you also, or you or other officers, locate a projectile at that crime scene?
yes, we did.
And was that projectile packaged and put in evidence as well?
Yes, it was.
Do you recall who located that projectile?
Detective Grimm,
Detective Grimm?
and I believe also Tammy Pera was there digging.
You said Tammy Perro was there.
Tammy Pera was there also digging for it,
Why was she digging?
to find it, to get anything else around there.
Okay. Did you attend the autopsy in this case?
No,
Did you speak with individuals who did attend the autopsy?
yes,
Was it your understanding that no projectile was recovered from the victim?
correct,
Is that why you guys were digging in the dirt looking for a projectile?
yes,
Show you what's been marked for identification as states. Is it Q? Do you recognize this item?
yes,
And is this the projectile that was recovered at the crime scene?
yes,
And does it have the original packaging and labeling?
yes,
Does it appear to be in the same or substantially similar condition?
yes, it is.
And it hasn't been altered or tampered with other than FDLE markings?
No,
Your Honor, I move this into evidence as the next number exhibit.
Any objection, Your Honor? Without objection, will be admitted as evidence.
Page 17.
Judge, if I can publish these to the jury, they can both just hand them and pass them down at the same time. Yep, you can hit that.
back.
Just to clarify, the question was about the exhibit itself?
No, I was gonna ask. her.
No. May proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Youngman, did you collect, I think we already mentioned it, but did you collect the clothing that was on scene as well?
Yes,
And did you also locate and collect any tire impressions?
yes, I did.
How many tire impressions did you collect from the crime scene?
2.
And did the tire impressions have to be of a certain quality to collect them, or how do you decide what to collect and what not to collect when it comes to tire impressions?
Yes, they gotta be pretty good. You know, if you run a tire over clay, that would be great. Dirt, wet dirt wouldn't be great. Loose dirt, sand, not so good.
And what kind of area was this?
Dirt,
It was dirt. And did you know when those tire impressions were put in the ground out there?
I can't tell.
And did you photograph the crime scene in its entirety?
Yes,
That first witness, Your Honor?
Okay.
Showing you composite N. There's quite a few, but just flip through them and look up when you're done. Do you recognize those photos, Mr. Youngman?
yes,
What do they depict generally?
the scene and the whole crime scene.
Do they fairly and accurately depict that crime scene as you observed it back on January 14th, 2006?
Yes,
Have those photos been altered or tampered with in any way you can see?
no,
Your Honor, I move this item into evidence as the next numbered state's exhibit.
Any objection? No objection, Your Honor. Without objection, they'll be admitted as evidence.
And permission to publish this composite exhibit, Your Honor,
How are you gonna do that?
on the TV, Your Honor.
Very well.
Mr. Youngman, feel free to position yourself so that you can see the television. What are we looking at in this photograph, Mr. Youngman?
the road in the front is Thornberry Road. It dead ends there, and that's the tram road we were talking about, and that heads towards LPGA to the east.
So if you went all the way up that tram road, you come out in LPGA.
Yes,
And can you make out the victim in this photograph from a distance?
she is where the people are standing right off to the right and a little up right at the bottom of that tree, the second tree from the right.
Going to the next photograph. What are we looking at here, sir?
Just down the tram road, and again, she's directly behind them on that tree.
And here?
Same direction, just a little bit closer.
Now the terrain out there, I see water in this photograph. What's the terrain like out there?
That part is swampy. The other side of that black drape for the construction is a little swampy, but it's dry where she is.
Which direction are we looking at in this photograph?
I just turned around and faced the other way, the west direction.
So if you're traveling from LPGA and you were coming up on this area, this is what you would see.
From the dirt road, yes.
And And the next photograph, sir?
That's the victim, her clothing over to the left of her.
This photograph, Mr. Youngman, what are we looking at?
Same picture, victim on the right, and the clothing.
Does it look like shoes as well to the left of her?
Yes,
And you would have collected the shoes and all of the clothing, right?
yes, I did.
This is another picture of the clothing and the shoes.
Yes,
Going to picture H. This is another photograph of the victim.
yes.
And at this point, the victim hasn't been touched, she hasn't been moved, nothing's happened to her, right?
No, not by me.
Next photograph, is this just a close-up of, again, the clothing of the victim as well as the victim?
Yes,
And this photograph?
just the other side of her.
And then we're gonna get to some other photographs in a second, but generally, you know, looking at this picture alone, approximately where the bullet and where the casing were discovered?
Okay,
Or do you want me to move on to where they're on?
It's, the casing was just this side of her, about 4 feet from her feet, and the projectile was in, right under that black drape and little mound.
Okay, so the casing was kind of, tell me if I'm accurate, down or in this
Yes.
area?
Yeah, there's should be another picture with a number
Okay.
next to it.
And then you said the projectile was somewhere up by the black tarp.
Yes,
And obviously, at this point, is this kind of the first round of photographs you take before locating any evidence?
yes,
And is this another picture of Ms. Green?
yes, it is.
I think there's two. Now, what injuries did you observe to Ms. Green when you arrived?
There was a bullet on the back of her head, but I did not know that until the medical examiner gets, I don't touch that body at all. The body is theirs.
So you just see the blood and that's pretty much it?
Yes, when they come out, they investigate their own investigation on it, and they'll check her out and then let me know.
And this photograph?
Her clothing and the sneakers.
Let me ask you about the medical examiner before I go to the next photograph. You said that they come out, they're the ones who actually come out to the scene and collect the deceased.
Yes,
Okay. So it's their investigator who comes out and I guess brings a body bag
correct.
and she's sealed up in that bag and taken to the medical examiners?
Yes,
Going to the next photo. And I think in this photo, I see some
yeah,
markers.
there's a number there in the shade from the tree, number 2.
And why is number 2 significant, sir?
That was the casing,
Number 2 is the shell casing.
shell casing.
Is this just a closer photo for reference to that number 2 marker?
Right, 2 is down the bottom, and her clothes, we made another number.
And again, that's the casing that we just looked at a few minutes ago that is now in evidence.
Yes,
Is this another angle to see how far the casing is from?
from the other side, yes.
And what's I think I see a couple other markers. I want to just talk about the third marker. Is that just a marker for her clothing or for her shoes?
Yes, number 3.
And I know you described earlier how you take photographs. Is this the process you're going through now where you're taking closer and closer photographs of the evidence?
Yes,
And what are we looking at here, sir?
that is a rock holding the number down, and it's the casing right about, I can,
Yeah, if you have your pointer up there.
right here.
Just so I'm right. Is it right here? With the end
Oh,
right
yeah,
here?
yeah,
Okay.
yes. Yeah, it's a hole right there. Sorry.
And to the next photograph. Number 7, why is number 7 marked evidence?
That was the projectile.
That was the bullet and the projectile.
Yes,
And same thing, did you take the far away photo and move in on it?
yes,
Closer shot of the projectile?
correct.
Going back to the previous photograph, just for the jury's reference, approximately where was the victim? I know she's been removed at this point, but where was she located?
Right where that discolor, right about the middle of the picture.
The red discoloration here?
Yes.
Okay. And what are we looking at here, Mr. Young?
That's a projectile.
And again, just like the casing, is that the same projectile that we just looked at, or the jury just looked at a few minutes ago?
Yes.
And to your knowledge, was that casing and that projectile later submitted to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement for scientific analysis?
Yes, it was.
I just have one moment, Your Honor.
Yeah.
All right, I have no further questions. I will tend to the witness.
Any further examination?
Yes, Your Honor. I may, Your Honor, I'm going to be looking at some evidence here to present.
Mr. Shea, is there? Issue.
You can plug it in. Plug it in. Just give it a second. It's weird. See how it's working right here?
Oh, yeah.
Just gotta keep it on here. Okay.
I'm good with this. No. Mr. Youngman, you took quite a few photographs out there, and I'd like to ask you about a couple of photographs that you took. And we're looking at, scene one. Can you tell us from that photograph approximately where the tire imprint that you took was located, if it shows up in that photograph?
From the right tire,
The
And I-
tire imprint that you had taken a mold of and sent that to the FDLE?
right, there was two tire marks right there, but the one on the right facing down the tram road, the one,
Yeah, you can just identify there.
right across from her on the tram road, right here, there's two, one on each side.
And is it correct that there was not a lot of traffic there, that appeared to be a new indentation of a tire of an automobile that had left the area?
I couldn't tell how old the tire is, what tire mark was left, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a construction site, so there's a lot of
Well,
movement.
right there, though, when you took that tire, it appeared to be fresh.
Yeah, it wasn't run over, it was there.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. Yeah, and that was in photograph B2. I'm sorry, A2. Which we have marked in evidence. And so the tire track is right in this area again.
On the road itself, on the dirt porch, just above your arrow.
And I understand it appeared to be the car left in a high rate of speed or something and threw up the dirt.
At some point, it looked like that, the grass was run over.
Yes. Now additionally, you took photographs of the bottom of their feet, is that correct?
Yes,
And did you collect any of the substance for evaluation?
yes, I did.
And which foot did you collect it off of, or do you recall what portion of the foot you collected?
Both feet, her back and her hand.
I can operate this a little better on a smaller machine than this is. I'm looking for both feet.
A6.
Okay, we're gonna look at A6. I'm not gonna get hired for a TV station. Yeah, I'm trying to get in both. Okay, well, I'll just go through. There's one showing the bottom of both feet. Okay, we'll skip that. Thank you so much for your assistance. This is a photograph of the clothing that you found, is that correct?
Yes,
Did you also examine the tennis shoes to see if there's any substance in the tennis shoes that may have matched your feet?
yeah, there was nothing in it.
So the tennis shoes were clean, yet her feet had this tar on it?
It wasn't a tar, it was more a glistening, like a Vaseline or something like that.
I'm gonna have to get a little closer.
I'm sorry?
I have to get a little closer. I'm not
Okay.
able to see.
You're gonna have to keep your head, your sound, I mean, your voice up though.
I will, Your Honor.
Let's share this.
Yeah.
Thank you. Looking for the tire. That's it.
Next one down, A9.
Judge,
I got one. Is that a photograph you took?
I'm not sure of that one.
Okay. Now, is this the photograph of the tire impression that you made a mold of?
Yes,
And you submitted that to the FDLE?
yes.
Did you also participate in any of the aerial shots? How
Judge, I
did
would
you
object,
pull it?
that item is not in evidence.
Which one? We've been going through a lot of them, not
This
identifying.
photograph, if we could close it, this is not in evidence.
Well, I was going to see if you took the picture. Yeah, did you take that picture? Or did you have that
No.
picture taken?
No, I did not have
You
any.
did not order it.
Let me stop there. What is this item? Is it ID or not ID?
That particular one is not ID drawn, everything else is ID.
We're not making a very good record if we're not referring to some stuff that, I mean, if the viewers look at it, it's supposed to be evidence. It should be marked, okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now what are we looking at?
This is the entire impression and the molding was made of the vehicle that was located at the Julie Green.
What's the ID number on it?
My ID number?
Or any ID number?
So it should be A9 for him. I don't think it's in evidence yet, Jerry, so here's your look. It's A9, so you need to identify it. Okay.
All right, I would like to move A9 into evidence.
Okay, any objection?
No, sir.
Okay, without objection, A9 will be admitted as defense exhibit. Now you can talk about it.
Yes. Now, did you get any results back on that particular submission to the FDLA?
Yes.
And what was the results that you received then?
Objection, question calls for hearsay.
Sustained.
Going back to number A4, which was the substance on the bottom of this green speeds, I would like to move that into evidence.
Right, you made a composite here.
Yes.
Stipulated A1 through A7.
A1?
Yeah, so one A through, A1 through 7.
A1 to
This is
this.
defense one.
A1 through A7
Yes, sir.
becomes composite.
And I'm gonna add A9 as well as the composite one. That's how they were labeled on the back.
That's
They
correct.
just have separated. So all of those were going to be defense exhibit one.
Okay, so it's A1 through A7 plus A9 will become defense exhibit number 1.
Yes.
Got it.
And may I apologize?
Yes, how would you like to do that?
I would like to go ahead and let the jury.
You know, I need a break for a restroom. Do you still have a lot more to go?
I do not.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and do that, and we'll take a restroom break. You're gonna pass on the pictures, and then we'll take our break.
Where is number, where's 9? Where's 9?
That's it.
What's the order, Judge?
Yeah, pass them down.
We have a blank one, is that good?
Oh, that. You may succeed. Were you also involved with the continued investigation with Detective Tammy Para when they went to the Upullet car lot in DeLand?
No,
You were not there.
no,
So this was the extent of your photographs and anything that your participation, in other words, as collecting evidence in the Julie Green case.
correct.
Okay, thank you. No other questions. All right, thank you. Any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. I know, Mr. Young, you said you didn't attend the autopsy of Ms. Green, but did you collect something from the medical examiner's office
Yes, I did,
related to that autopsy?
correct.
What did you collect?
Go back in.
If it'll refresh your recollection on any states are.
Yes, I did collect that.
And what is that?
This is the sexual assault kit.
And was that put into evidence at the Daytona Beach Police Department
Yes,
and sent for processing to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement?
yes.
Your Honor, I move this item into evidence to the next number six. States exhibit.
No objection. Without objection, will be admitted.
And last thing I want to talk to you about, Mr. Youngman, in regard to Ms. Green's crime scene, the tire impressions that were put up by the defense. Do you know when those tire impressions got there?
No,
Do you know if it was a week before? Do
I don't know
you
that.
know if it was a month before?
No,
Was this a pretty heavily traveled area in terms of that access road and construction vehicles to your observations?
it appeared that way from the tracks, from the dirt. path.
The dirt had been heavily traveled.
Yes,
I have one moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
No further questions. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. Anything else? No, you- All right, just going to step down. We're going to go ahead and take a 15-minute break at this time, okay? And just to let you know, we're not working late tonight, so, yeah, you want to say something?
No, we'll just talk to the board when
Okay, go ahead and take your break, please. 15 minutes.
backward.